for calling. This is Robert Chavez on a recorded line. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
My gosh, I cannot believe I just actually called the bank to try to stop paying my mortgage. Now, I've got some details to fill in with you on that, but first I gotta say, the free time has really helped me tone up, if you know what I mean. Yeah, these times are crazy, and today I wanted to share with you my experience in calling the bank to stop paying my mortgage. And I want to go through the steps with you. Now, a lot of you who know me know that I have a lot of investment real estate. I've got a lot of properties that have mortgages, and I have some properties that don't have mortgages and some that have very small mortgage balances. And today I wanted to go through the process of what it's like and the steps that you should follow to protect yourself in the event you want to get this process going and protect yourself, especially through this time of uncertainty. Now, I just want to be fully transparent here. I don't actually intend on missing a single mortgage payment. Fortunately, because I'm maxed out over here, I've got enough reserves to cover my payments even if all of my tenants stop paying. But I wanted to go through the process to not only know what the process would be like, but also to be able to share it with you and help my course members, because I'm getting a lot of comments on the public YouTube channel, in the public Discord, and in the private Discord, and even in my private live streams at 9 a.m. every day, where we talk about the market and what's going on, about people wondering, what do we do if our tenants stop paying rent? What do we do if we can't make our mortgage payment anymore? So this is a step-by-step guide to help you get through that process. Step number one, I really want to encourage you to start this process early. If you see, okay, I've got 2 months of payments I can make, and if things aren't better then I'm gonna have to ask the bank for help. Start the process now, because you can't just call the bank and go, I can't make my payment anymore, ain't making my payment, because then your credit's gonna get shot. It's really bad. Don't do that. So if you're thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make my June, July payment, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make my payment in August, I personally would recommend contacting the bank now. Now, I know a lot of people might hear that and think, oh my gosh, Kevin, you're gonna encourage all these people to call the bank and it's gonna saturate the phone lines and the waits are gonna be crazy long. I wish I had that much reach. I'm just saying this to all of y'all who support me, that you may as well get in line as well, because the line is already pretty long, and the earlier you get in it, the better. And I mean, just so you know, you can start this process even if right now you're okay. It's better to be prepared, so that way at least they've already got your file open, they've got a log of you starting to work with the bank early. Everybody appreciates a solid heads up. The same goes for if you're a tenant. If you're a tenant, like, hey, I know I'm not gonna be able to make my payment in July if this keeps going on, then at least reach out to your landlord and give them a heads up. Everybody loves a good heads up, even if it's bad news. Step number two, you wanna find your mortgage statement. So I'm gonna use my iPhone here to show you a real statement. This is actually a real escrow account statement. And so let's go on over here. What you wanna find is the loan number, have that handy. You wanna be prepared because you're gonna get transferred like 3 or 4 different times, so you wanna make sure you have that ready to go. And then you want the customer service number. See, today is Saturday and they're gonna be open from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Don't call within an hour of 4 p.m. because you'll end up getting to like the last stage and then that place will be closed. So make sure you call like an hour or 2 before they actually close. So loan number, customer service number, probably helps to actually know which company you're calling just to make sure you're calling the right company, and you're good. Now, before you start dialing, step 3 is go to the website for that company. So in this case, Flagstar Bank, and look to see what kind of homeowner assistance options they have. Honestly, a lot of banks are streamlining this so much that do not pick up the phone and call until you've familiarized yourself with the online options, because watch how amazing this is. I did a quick Google, wrote in Flagstar, the name of the company, homeowner assistance. There you go, facing financial hardship. Sounds good to me, let's click that. And most banks have already updated some sort of illness mortgage assistance information. So here you could see sort of a description of different options and things that you have, but what you can really do is you could just click this button here, hey, request forbearance, fill this out, name, last four social, address, email, phone, loan number, so you always need that loan number, and then answer a couple questions here. Is the property you're providing your primary residence? Yes or no. Let's see what happens if we click no here. And are you experiencing a financial hardship? Yes, and there you go, submit. I wonder what happens if I hit no. That's interesting. I could probably still submit. Yeah, it doesn't give me any kind of error that I can't request it, even if I don't have a financial hardship. So that's good. This gives you options, even if you're in a situation like me where I can still make the payment, but if the tenant stops paying me, I'd kind of prefer not to. Now, I don't know about like the morals or ethics of that, but I guess in theory, you don't even need a hardship now. You could literally just click no and submit request and then just wait to hear. Unfortunately though, not all banks are going to be as easy as this. When I went to ShellPoint's mortgage servicing website, they literally wanted every potential source of income. If I had rental property, they wanted a profit and loss on all of these. And I mean, I have those records, but it was way more of an intimidating process. So what I decided to do was I called ShellPoint. And here's how that process went. By the way, you know what's kind of crazy is as an owner or a landlord, you could push a few buttons on your phone or make a phone call and not have to make your payments. As a tenant, you don't get that luxury. Sure, landlords might not be able to evict you, but gosh, it's kind of interesting how anytime there's a financial panic, tenants are usually the ones who get screwed, and landlords are usually the ones who have options to modify their outstanding loan balances or skip a few payments or negotiate something. It's a really interesting kind of world that we live in, and if you're a tenant watching this for some reason, then I highly encourage you to consider investing in real estate because the options for you are pretty amazing, even when there are issues. Now, step 4, if for some reason your bank doesn't have a super easy single form like that to fill out and submit to request your forbearance, then the other option you have is calling them. Now, a few notes for calling these companies. And when I say these companies, I mean any bank right now, because they're all inundated with phone calls. Number 1 tip, very, very important, that you go do something where you could just listen to the phone in the background or put some headphones on. For example, you can study my Teachable courses linked below. Still have a 30% off sale going on that I briefly extended, but the price will be going up shortly. You can also deposit $100 with Webull and get 2 free stocks valued up to $1,400. They also extended their sale, I believe, through the end of March, which is really, really good. Get those 2 free stocks before they turn that dial back and get rid of those 2 free stocks. Also, you know how most banks start the conversation off with, "Hi, this is Jimmy with Chase, just a heads up, calls may be recorded." This is a perfect opportunity for you to record the call after you say something like, "Sounds good, I'm recording the call too, Jimmy," or "Sounds good, hey Jimmy, you mind if I record the call too? That way we're on an equal play." Make some kind of joke out of this so it's not awkward. You don't want them to feel like, "Oh my gosh, what if this is a secret shopper?" Also a good idea to just write down, make your life simple, write down the person's name you spoke with, their badge or employee ID. You could just ask, "Oh, by the way, what was your name? How do I spell that? And what's the ID number? I just want to make sure I document this appropriately." And write that next to the phone number you called and the date and time. That way this call could always be looked up and referenced in the future if for whatever reason you lose your recording or you don't want to go through it, you just want a quick reference. You have way more leverage if you're properly prepared. Like, you don't want to be like me most of the time when I call the bank with a problem and they're like, "All right, can we get started with your account number?" And I'm like, I knew you were gonna ask that, but hold on. Can't find it, and you're like driving and can't find it. Yeah. Be prepared, and you're actually gonna get a lot further with this because this is a negotiation. Step number 5, know what your goal is. Notice how I'm giving you a lot of steps before we even get to the call part. It's important to be very, very prepared, and one of them is knowing what potential options they might offer you. You don't wanna get options given to you and then like, I guess that sounds good. Go in knowing what you want. Generally, what you want is you want any kind of freeze or something that allows you to stop making payments for a certain period of time. Some banks call this a forbearance. Some banks call that a mortgage freeze. I just recommend going in, because forbearance is a weird word, just say, "Hey, is there any way we could just freeze my mortgage for the next 90 days or 120 days and we'll catch up with those payments at the end of the loan." That's usually the best case scenario. Remember, time value of money. Your money's worth a lot more to you now than it is at the end of your loan term. So you want that freeze. Some banks will try to negotiate with you and say, well, hey, we can offer you 6 months of reduced payments, just pay us half or 75%. Always try to go for the complete freeze. To me, it's all or nothing. And I would much rather take a 30 or 60-day freeze than a 180-day sort of reduction in payments, mostly because I know that if I get a 60-day freeze, in 40 days, I could call them up again and go, hey, can we extend this freeze a little bit? You might not get that extension right up front like day one, but you always have the option. Remember, you're somebody repaying them. You have leverage. Once you get the loan, you're the one who has power. You either make the payment or you don't. And if you're facing bankruptcy or you can't make your payments anymore, or you lost your job or whatever, the banks really have no choice but to work with you. Now it's time to dial. Contact the customer service department and ask for the loss mitigation or homeowner assistance team. Generally, this is going to mean you've literally waited an hour on the phone to get to customer service, then you get transferred to this other department that usually doesn't have a direct number. When you talk to those folks, very key word to say is temporary. You don't want the bank to think that you're a lost cause, because if the bank thinks you're a lost cause, they might encourage you to do a short sale or sell the property. And the last thing you want to do during crazy times like this is have to put your property on the market, sell it, move, and deal with all that crap. Especially since states like California and New York are on lockdown and people can't even go out and look at houses, you're just giving money away at that point. And the whole point of this video is to get some money from the banks to protect yourself if you can't make your payments or the tenant ain't paying you anymore. Once you explain that you expect your situation to be temporary, I highly encourage you to be upfront with everything. For example, when I called, I told them upfront, I'm a landlord, I own more than 10 properties, I have a lot of loans, I have some properties without loans, and I have multiple different streams of income and businesses. But what I'm interested in understanding is, how is income going to be qualified? For example, if a rental property makes $3,000 in cash flow and the payments are $2,500, but then all of a sudden the tenant stops paying or the multiple tenants stop paying if it's multifamily, well, what are the options then? Are they gonna take all of my income and go, you could still afford it? Or can we treat each property on a property by property basis? By being upfront, the representative I was working with said, wow, that's a really good question. I haven't actually heard that before.
That's a really good question. I haven't really come across anything like that here.
And what he agreed to do was take my request and submit it to the actual decision makers.
With everything, what we've been doing here as of now is, for any that have been claiming a hardship, affording the information. We are having members from our loss mitigation team then call back to the borrowers or the homeowners and discussing what options are available there at that point.
These are the people that actually offer you terms. Usually it's hard to get these people on the phone unless they call you. So expect either an email back or a phone call back. And at that point, you could actually negotiate with the people who are making the real decisions. That's where you want to get to. And the goal is getting in touch with somebody who can actually make a decision sooner rather than later. Even if you set up the process now, if you get the green light now that, hey, we'll set you up for a 90-day freeze as soon as you need it, just let us know, great. Then all it is flicking a switch, which is much better than needing to not make your payment and not being prepared. It's kind of like the saying, it's better to have a gun and not need it than need a gun and not have it. I'm not trying to make a gun argument here, so if you don't like guns, I'm not trying to offend anybody, I'm just making an example here, okay? You're better off setting yourself up to prepare than be unprepared when you need it. Now, this is probably the most important step out of everything. Make sure that you get an email or faxed or some form of written documentation directly from them, signed by somebody or email signed by somebody, something written and documented from somebody that your credit will not be affected. This is really important. You do not want banks to report you to the credit bureaus and ruin your chances of being able to get financing in the future. That would be very, very bad, or at least it would make it very difficult for you to get financing in the future. So to get some kind of documentation before you do anything. Now, and only now, after you've gone through all of these steps, should you consider missing a payment. The worst thing that you could do is put in an application with the little phone app that you saw, or get in touch with this loss mitigation team and kind of start the process and start inquiring about things, and then just stop making payments. Until you get approval to stop making payments, you've negotiated a deal, and you've gotten written documentation that you're not gonna get reported to the credit bureaus, then you have the green light, should you need it, to stop making your payments. So be very, very careful. The last thing I want is all of y'all to get your credit scores screwed, because I need you to be able to get out there and go buy some really sick wedge deals, because I wanna see all of you build your wealth. Thanks so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram. Until next time.